1996, Tom and I decided to have children, and my first pregnancy ended right away in miscarriage, and we kind of took that in stride, and I was really sad, but I got pregnant right away with Brianna, and nothing was ever a problem. She was just such a joy. Brianna was a great baby to have, and so easy, made me look good as a mom. And
I was working a third shift somewhere, and I was able to stay home much of the morning with Brianna while Alicia was working part-time. I look back and I just say that God was really in it, because during those times when I was with Brianna as an infant were some of the most intimate and special times that I can look back on, and I don't regret one moment of it.
When she was about 2 years old, we decided to have more children. It was a good time in our life, and 14 weeks into the pregnancy, I was at a routine visit and there was no heartbeat, and they did a few ultrasounds. I kept making them do ultrasounds and thinking somehow that the next ultrasound would somehow show that it was all a mistake and we were going to have a baby anyway. And we definitely miscarried, and we named him Nicholas James, and that was really hard. But 4 or 5 months later, we decided to try again. At 20 weeks along, we miscarried Robert Thomas, and that was really, really hard for me, very devastating for me.
I see our situation isn't it that much different than anybody else's. The reason why I say that is because if you look at life, life is just full of ups and downs. Times when you struggle, times when you rejoice, times of sorrow, and then hopefully times that are followed by joy. What made the grieving process so difficult for us is that we had already made arrangements to move away from our close friends and Bethel family here in Owatonna. And it was a struggle because even though we had received the news of our miscarriage only a week earlier, we still felt that God was definitely leading us in the direction of Winona, and He had confirmed this many times by amazing situations that He had put us into.
For the first few months after that third miscarriage, we got busy doing things. With our move to Winona and my changing to a full-time position, again after 4 or 5 years, Tom going to school full-time, there was a lot to do and easy to hide.
But Alicia and I both knew that God wasn't done with us yet.
It came all to a head. At one point, Tom came home one day to find me curled up in a ball on the kitchen floor, just weeping, and I looked up and I saw the compassion and pain in his eye, and even though I had no idea what I was saying, I said to him, Tom, I feel your love, and I still need to feel your love. And it is helping, but God is gonna fix me. You don't have to fix me. It'll take time, and it's between me and my God. You just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. Don't think it's you.
During our time in Winona, God had revealed Himself in so many amazing ways. He brought friends to help us through the situation. He did have His hand upon our family, and He was leading us, and that we were right where God wanted us to be.
And that was totally God, because I wanted somebody to fix me. The next 3 years, it was a slow process of working through my sorrow with God, and I just came to the realization that my relationship with Christ is just so personal. I learned so many things, but the biggest thing is that up until I had nothing, until I was empty and full of sorrow and pain, I didn't realize how my life ached for Christ, how more basic a need for Christ than my need of food, of water and air and rest. We felt like we were over the pain and over the sorrow and ready to add to our family. I told my doctor, which was the same doctor that was with us with the miscarriages 14 and 20 weeks along, and he was pretty excited. He's like, we're ready. We had our first ultrasound at 7 weeks along, and oh, it was such a fun ultrasound. We were measuring this, and look at that great femur, and look at the heart pumping, and 45 minutes, and he says, yep, and there's only one. Oh, there's two. What can you do but laugh?
One of the neat things is when we were told that we were going to have twins, Alicia and I began looking. Alicia always wanted our boy's name to be named after me, Thomas Joseph. And I never knew what Thomas meant, so I thought I didn't have any good names for our boy. What Thomas meant, and not knowing what it meant, we looked it up and it meant twin. And so I could not refute the fact that Alicia wanted the boy Thomas. And another interesting thing is I didn't know what Joseph meant. That's my middle name. Joseph means may God give increase. It was very special to see that Hannah meant grace of God or blessed by God, and Hannah joy. God's grace brings us such great joy. Because in the times of sorrow, God has brought us and lifted us up out of our sorrow and has given us joy.
After we realized we were having twins, we were going through kindergarten papers of Brianna, and we found this little paper, and we read it. It says, I have a dream. It was done when she was 5 years old on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and she wrote to have a brother or a sister. And she looks at that, and she can read now. She's like, Mommy, I had been praying for a brother or sister for a long time, but I didn't realize God would give both at the same time. It wasn't an easy pregnancy, twins, previous miscarriages. I was on bed rest after 6 months of being pregnant, and again, we're so blessed by our Bethel family who just showered us with prayers and phone calls checking up on me, and brought meals. They brought meals for 5 months, starting in September when I went on bed rest until the babies were 3 months old. And people would come over and wash my clothes and do my dishes, and totally, I had to get rid of all of that perfectionist and control. And what a blessing. And miscarriages are not what God intended. It's not the way He put this earth and this world together as. God brings life and God brings joy. And miscarriage is a bad thing. Other people in our Bethel family are here in Owatonna that have miscarried as well. It's very common. Everyone has to go through their grieving process differently. It took me a lot longer than I thought. What got me through was thinking about the brevity of our life here on earth, that my baby is alive in heaven. And even it's still painful, it's still very, very painful, but knowing that Jesus is holding my baby, and I'll be there in a moment, and I'll have my baby for all eternity. To me, I have 6 children, and 3 of them are being held by Jesus. And I know my God is good.